So hopefully everyone's okay with that. I want to catch Ed's wisdom for posterity. And we've got a small group. So what we might do is as we get started here, we might just get everyone just to quickly introduce themselves. So my name's Brad Gollin. My co-host is Ed Britton. And today our topic is not retirement. A great business exit needs a great after exit. And that is really Ed's specialty, is his company, Not Retirement. And so we're going to frame this that really we believe that every business owner deserves a great exit. And the reason we're having this conversation today is one of the things that I think that's really essential is truly understanding what it is that they want post from their business, in the exit of their business, and most importantly, to not have regrets, what life after their exit looks like. Because if you do want to have a great exit, there's really 3 phases that a business owner needs to plan for. So, the one phase is obviously pre-exit. So this is where you can create the most value, and really this is where an owner can get themselves organized, get their team prepared, and really by enabling the business to function without them is where you create a business that's both attractive and sellable. Because when your business is not completely dependent on you, that's when you're going to attract strategic buyers and the best value in terms of your exit. You also need to plan for the transaction itself. So thinking about what are all your options, which options are most attractive to you, which options may give you the best payout or the best legacy in terms of other outcomes that you want to create from your exit. And basically transacting so that you're able to retain the most after-tax dollars, because those are really the ones that count. And then typically you need to anticipate that there's going to be a phase after you sell your business where there's probably going to be some continued involvement. And so understanding what your after sale life, desired life looks like, and what the buyer is going to still want in terms of any sort of continued value from you, the better you have clarity on what you want, the more you can really kind of set your own terms on what that post deal looks like. And that's really how you set yourself up for a great exit. So this is really part of, we have a framework where an owner of a business really needs to have 2 plans. One plan is their personal plan, their exit, what they want out of it, what they need to do personally in order to achieve that. And then, the business needs its own plan for how do you grow the capacity, capabilities, transform the business so it can grow with the team and the leadership that's staying in the business. So really today's topic is about that first piece, because you got to get, as an owner, you got to get yourself organized and get yourself together before you can really plan and prepare for the business and for the execution. So what I'm going to do, Ed, is before I introduce you, I just want to do a quick round of just having everyone introduce themselves. So Joseph, do you want to go first?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. So I'm kind of 8 years into the small business called Shelf Genie in the BC Lower Mainland. And Chuck, who's on the call, was the guy who got me this franchise. And awesome. It's funny because last month I was in Phoenix and we were looking at our new manufacturing plant, and they talked exactly about this, but American style. So I'm kind of looking more north of the border not for translation, of course, but I want to support more local at the end of the day. And I do have more of a 3-year succession planning right now that I'm working towards. And yeah, I would love to kind of get more information on this.
Excellent. Thanks, Joseph. Hey, Chuck.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Mobile today, so I'm just got my Kaji attire on. Thanks for the presentation again, Brad. So I'm a franchise specialist. I help folks figure out what's the right franchise to buy. And as Joseph said, 8 years ago, we sat down for 3 months of research for him to find his particular business. Now he's at the end of or getting closer to that decision about what do I do when I want to retire and grow up. So it's great to see you, Joseph. My specialty is working one-on-one with folks to help them decide if business ownership is good for them at their particular moment in time. And I take care of all of Western Canada, Winnipeg out to Victoria. And we have about 100 different franchise options to choose from. And that's where I kind of specialize and coach folks through a strategic research process to get to the ultimate, yes, I want to buy a business, or no, I do not want to buy a business. So I'll wrap up with that, Brad.
Thanks, Chuck. Vanessa, do you want to just introduce yourself? Okay, I'm going to keep us going forward. If Vanessa comes back on a little later, then that'll be great. So, Ed, I think you've got a great story to tell. So Ed Britton is the owner of Not Retirement and has put a lot of work and thought and does a lot of mentorship in this area. So Ed, I'm going to hand it on to you. And if you can share your story with us and the framework you've developed, really looking forward to that.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Brad. I think when Brad and I found each other, we recognized a real dovetail in what we do, and so it's just so good to share this with him and with you. I like talking about it. I'm not a hold your questions to the end of the presentation guy. So if you have a question, you can just speak up, or you can type it in the chat or something. I'm good with that. So, sometimes people like to hear the story about how Not Retirement came to be, and there is a story to this, and it goes along with the picture that's in my background here. This is actually a photograph of Mount Assiniboine Park. That is on the BC-Alberta border. That's Mount Assiniboine that you see there, which is the highest mountain in the Southern Rockies. So anyway, about 5 years ago, my hiking partner and I, we decided we wanted to do this, to see the Canadian Matterhorn. That's how it's known throughout the world, And so we got ourselves ready, put our pack sacks on our back, and away we went for 6 days, 6-day trip. 2 days in, 2 days, camping there and exploring all the wonderful things, and then 2 days out the other way. Actually, it was a through hike. So on the first day, we're hiking in there, and the first thing we see is about after lunch, and there's this group of guys, young guys, obviously inexperienced. You can tell that because they tie their pots and pans to the outside of their pack sack. When you see that, these guys haven't done this before. So they're coming out and they say, "Oh, we never expected this. We got to get out of here." They didn't even spend the night. So away they went. Wise decision. Wise decision. And we kept going, and then about 3 o'clock, we ran into a couple of other guys, and sort of in their 30s, obviously more experienced in this kind of expedition. They're coming out. They'd been in there, so we stop and we talk again, like you always do, and we chatted, and then one of the guys said, "I am so impressed that a couple of guys your age are still doing things like this." So I didn't say anything, but I initially I thought, well, I just do this all the time, since I was a little kid. This is what you do in the summertime, and so it's really nothing unusual. So it was just, I just let it go, and we went our ways. But I thought about it because this is the first time that anybody had said that I wouldn't be expecting to be doing something because of my age, you know. So I thought about it for a long time, and it got me thinking about, you know, mid and late life, and what am I going to be doing? And most people retire, and I'd seen what most people do when they retire, and I thought, that's not for me. That's not for me. What is it that I do, or that I'm planning to do? And I said, well, some people, they call it the next chapter, you know, or the third act, or they call it, you know, the golden years. I don't like that one. Refirement is another one. I really don't like refirement. It's a weird thing to say. So I was actually, it was in the winter time, there was snow on the ground. I was walking along the road, and I said, you know what I want to do is just not retirement. That's not what it is. It's not retirement. And I don't like all these other words, but it's not retirement. And so I said, well, call it that then. Call it not retirement. And so that's where it came from. And my experience with that term has been that people get it right away. They just hear those two words, and they say, yeah, we know what you're talking about, you know. So that's the story about how not retirement started, and I'm still hiking every chance I get. So that hasn't changed. So so Brad, next slide then. There. So this is what we're going to talk about. Have a conversation about here. First, the number one there. Traditional retirement is actually not that traditional. We're going to talk about that. The second thing is this inspiration from a case study, Diana Nyad. I don't know if you've heard of Diana Nyad, but she's a famous long distance swimmer, a remarkable not retirement story. You'll enjoy that because I've told this story 100 times and I still enjoy it every time. Number three, why commit to not retirement? Because traditional retirement, or so-called, is a failed social experiment. And I'm gonna let you know why I put it that way. We'll talk about creating your own not retirement. And your not retirement is, the intention is it be the best thing you have ever done, which for most of the people I work with is a tall order. So we'll get into that too. Not retirement is stepping away from the job and living bigger than you have before. It's about purpose and engagement. Yeah. And then we'll talk about tools for actually doing something better than you've ever done before. And as I say, I work with some very accomplished people. I think, wow, how can we, surpass what you've done? It takes some effective tools to do that. So that's a little bit of an outline. And let's have the next slide. I love this slide. I chuckle every time I see it. George Burns is from my generation. When I was a little kid, I used to watch him on the Ed Sullivan Show all the time. And he always had a quirk just like this that really resonates. So yeah, people retire and live mostly healthy, active lives for the next 30 years. And so many people, like George Burns, don't see this part of their life as just an extended vacation. They see it as an opportunity to make a difference in the world, perhaps in an area that they feel more passionate about than anything they've done before. That's the idea of it, okay? George Burns continued to engage in acting until past his 100th birthday. So he is what we call a classic, not retirement rebel. And yeah. So next slide. These are some thought questions. You can type it in the chat if you want. You can speak it out, or you can just think about it. But it's about mid and late life after the job, and traditionally, like before you're not going to be like this, but traditionally, how did people spend these years after work in your family, or maybe in your country where you're from? Did they continue on the job? Some people do that. They just work on their job. Or did they do something new? Did they live independently for the whole time or most of it? Okay. Did they have a role in society? What are you sort of used to and conditioned to from your family? That's kind of the starting place, So give that a moment's thought. We need to know, where sort of what's in our blood this way, what's in our DNA.
Yeah, I grew up, oops, 1 second here. Sorry, Scott. Just traditionally growing up in Toronto, a lot of the, I had quite a bit of family in Toronto, and a lot of the cases were kind of, do well in school academically, go to university, get your degree, and go into something like accounting or medicine. And I wasn't really pushed into that, but my cousins did go those routes. And I wasn't a black sheep per se, but I kind of questioned why I would want to be kind of into those areas if I didn't really like those occupations. So I did corporate like investments for about 18 years before doing what I'm doing now.
Right.
But I just turned 47 last month, and I'm just at a point, where I kind of, I definitely do not want to retire. I don't care if I'm 80 or 70. It's I want to be active.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're right in there, Joseph, because we kind of arbitrarily set the beginning of not retirement at 45. So you're right in there.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, next slide here. We'll talk a little bit about the kind of social history of retirement. Oh, I see another comment came in the chat here. Your parents were still working at 70, from Vanessa. Yeah, I saw that much. Volunteer organizations, directorship, helping, hike 3 days a week. Oh, that's great. Yeah, after my own heart. So that's great. Yeah. So traditional retirement, or Brad says, so many I know retired to golf, getting bored and died. I think all of us have that in our community. Somebody who worked hard all of their life, saved up a whole bunch of money, retired, and 2 months later they were dead. Tragic, just tragic, and that's kind of what I'm kind of rebelling against. Let's start that. We had that happen in our own family with a fellow, and I don't want to dwell on it, but he basically drank himself to death. He quit his job, and he drank himself to death. Just wild. So my passion in this part of my life is the not retirement movement. We need change at a personal level. We need a change at a societal, cultural level, because this so-called traditional retirement, as I said in the beginning, is a failed experiment. It started, the first thought of it started mid 1800s with some private pension plans, and the government German government was the first to get into it, von Bismarck. You might know that name. They just decided at that time that they wanted to take the less efficient workers out of the workforce so that younger people could come in and do the jobs. And so they gave them this pension and retired them in their mid 60s. And that was the first government program. Never really got off the ground in North America. They did to some extent, but didn't really get off the ground until post World War II. That is how young the idea of what we call traditional retirement is. It's not even 100 years old. Okay, so yeah, Chuck, I'm not going to retire. Okay, you're my buddy, Chuck. Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. And so now what we're seeing among the boomers and Gen X, those people who are kind of at in this space, they're just rebelling against that traditional retirement. Okay, let's next slide then. So I'm sure that everything's been studied, right? Everything's been studied. So Shell Oil in like 2005, that's when this was published. So Shell Oil wanted to know if life expectancy would be increased and how much it would be increased by allowing people to retire early. And they said early retirement is 55. And so presumably you retired early, there's a whole 10 years of, no stress, no late nights. And they expected this to contribute to a person's longevity. So they studied like thousands of people because Shell Oil can do that sort of thing. Thousands of people from their own organization, and they had guessed 180 degrees wrong, completely wrong. The people who retired at 65 lived longer than the people who retired at 55, even when you discounted the people who retired early because of health problems. Okay, and so the life expectancy increased by not a small amount. The people who retired at 65, their life expectancy was increased by 37% over the period of the study that they did. So that is a huge difference. Disengagement is deadly. And you can actually, this is a different study that was done, but you can actually put a number to it. You increase life expectancy by 11% per year post-retirement age if you do not retire. It's just so, and so breaking it down some more in the next slide, you can see these three different areas. Mobility is better by 5 to 16% if you stay engaged. Physical health by 5 to 6%, mental health 6 to 9%. This was just over a 6-year period. So this is like, I don't have the actual numbers in my head, but it's for example, it's 65 to 71. But so what would be the effect if you went further than that, 10, 20, 30 years post-retirement? This is as good as it gets. All right, so that's enough bad news, guys. I'm going to stop talking about the bad news. We don't want to do that, okay? We're not going to do that. Retire or not retirement is based on what we call passion pursuits. So it doesn't mean that you have to keep going to work every day, and punching the clock. It doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that you must stay engaged. And as I have studied the biographies of these call them not retirement rebels, there are these 3 different classifications that their passion pursuits fall into: adventure, achievement, and contribution. And sometimes they do all 3, sometimes they focus on one, but this is what keeps people alive. And so often what they do in mid to late life turns out to be the best thing they've ever done in their life. It's just so inspiring to study these people. All right, I want to tell you a story about one in particular, this next slide here. And I already used her name at the beginning, Diana Nyad. So she is my favorite not retirement rebel. When she was young, like in her teens and 20s, she routinely broke world long distance swimming records, sometimes even records set by men. So this lady was world class. Okay, she swam all the way around Manhattan, broke the record. She swam from Bermuda back to the mainland U.S. Faster than it had ever been done before, and she did all kinds of things like this. And then when she was 28, she had this crazy idea. She was going to swim from Cuba to Florida, which is 111 miles, across the Gulf Stream, and deadly box jellyfish and sharks and all this stuff. So she was going to do that. 28 years old, top physical condition, probably the best long distance swimmer in the world. She could not do it. It was just too much. It was just too much. So at 30, without having accomplished that, she hung up her bathing suit and said, I got to get a real job. And that's what she did until she was in her 50s. And then her mom died. And that really hit her deeply to lose her mother. And she thought, I'm mortal. That's going to happen to me. And there's something that I really wanted to do that I haven't done, and that is to swim from Cuba to Florida. She's in her late 50s. And when she was in her top condition at 28, she wasn't able to do it. She said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And so away she went. So the first time she tries, there's a big storm and blows her off course. Currents drag her off course. She fails. She tries 2 months later. She gets stung by box jellyfish so bad that she goes into respiratory distress, and they almost lose her. And then she tried again and again, and then the 5th time she tried this, it's just such a remarkable story. I can't tell the whole thing. I'd love to, but the 5th time she tried, she's 64 years old, and she succeeds. Videotape of her dragging herself out of the water at 64 years old. No woman had ever done it before. First time in history. No woman of any age, and only one man had done it before. So now that's just not retirement rebel par excellence. It's not my ambition to ever do something like that. But there's lots of people who do stuff like this, and here's a few of them on the next slide. Now, so Takachiri Mori, he became the world's richest man, and he didn't even start trying until he was 55. Up until that time, he was a university professor and working for starvation wages. Started at 65, started to buy real estate in Tokyo. And a few years later, he was the richest man in the world. Colonel Saunders is a not retirement rebel. He didn't even start to sell his chicken recipe or sell chickens with his recipe until he was 62 years old. he didn't start KFC until he was 65, and we all, and the rest is history. We all know what he did, and so, and then these other stuff, Little House on the Prairie, you might have heard of that series. Laura Ingalls Wilder started that when she was 64. This fellow Yuichiro, I can't say Japanese name, Yuichiro Marua, climbed Mount Everest when he was 70 years old, then again when he was 75, and then again when he was 80. Just incredible stuff that these people do. I won't go through all of it, but there's just an amazing story to each one of these. And these people show us how to do it. If you dissect their biographies, there's very clear traits, skills, abilities that allow people to do the best thing they've ever done in mid and late life. Yeah. So inspiring. And so why do we commit to not retirement? Well, you may have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but the reason we do it is right at the top, the self-actualization. Just show ourselves all that we can do. That's the ambition that is fulfilled. And then once we have done that, we enter this level called transcendence, when we're not achieving for ourselves anymore, but we're achieving for other people. And that story comes into all of these people's history. Okay. So yeah, maybe I should stop talking for a minute. We can slip on to the next slide, and Brad, maybe you can just lead us in this part of it, hey?
Thanks, Ed. So really, what I'm going to do is there's a small group of us, so I'm just going to ask each one of you to kind of think about it. When you look at your own life right now, how well do you feel prepared yourself for your own not retirement? So I'd like you to kind of score yourself. Scale of 1 to 10, 1 not prepared, 10 I got it nailed. And then what I want to ask is, what's the reason for the score? What is it that's in your mind that really kind of sets you up for where you're at? So Chuck, I'm going to start with you. So how would you score yourself, and what's the driver for that?
I would score myself 7 out of 10 right now, Brad. Reason for that is since everyone's kind of bearing their age. Joseph, I got you. I just turned 60 in April. So, in my mind, it's, again, not retirement, perfect topic. I, started a brand new franchise, drank my own Kool-Aid, bought a franchise recently, just launched it in January. And I see that as one of the pieces of the puzzle for creating call it a predictable cash flow well into the 65 plus year range. So I'm still currently doing full-time my FranNet business, the franchise consulting, but that's 100% commission. I'm only as good as my last sale. Whereas this new business has reoccurring revenue from multiple channels. So it creates a financial security from that perspective. And then on the, I would call it the more personal side, self-actualization side, is I love the outdoors. Ed, very similar to you. And I put in the chat box, I'm going to the West Coast Trail this August for 7 days of some pretty hardcore hiking. And that's where I get my balance, right? I always go back to Mother Nature. It's been in my blood all my life. Still love doing it. That's why I live in Squamish. And so I really look at it as the balance of those two pieces all the time. How do I get from 7 to, 8 or 9 out of 10? Well, part of that's going to come over time with growing this new venture and getting the team in place. So I don't have to call it, manage so much of the day to day. So once I achieve that, and I fully anticipate I will, that's when I'm going to start going, I'm an 8. I'm a 9 out of 10. Not there yet, and I'm okay with that. I embrace the challenge, and I'm actually pretty darn excited about growing this new venture. It's been 11 years since I started my last business, so this is, I don't know, business number 5, I guess, for me over the years. So that's what I'd share.
That's great.
Awesome. Thanks, Chuck. Joseph, how about you?
Well, first of all, I think Chuck probably doesn't even look an age over 40, just to let you know. I'm shocked. I think, I don't know, I think currently I'm probably at a 6.5, maybe at best. Went through a divorce a few years ago. And so kind of restarting a little bit in a way, not restarting, I guess, but, having a different perspective on life. So I've met someone, and we live together and we bought a house and all stuff, and it's fantastic. And so we're kind of talking about our future in a few years, and we're both on the same page as far as not retiring. But I do work with a servant's heart as far as, I think maybe Ed brought about the word transcendence. I'm not there, but I would love to be there one day. I feel that every decade that I've lived so far in my life, I've always had some either new revelation or a new journey that I take myself on and I challenge myself with. And so I feel like heading into 50, I feel like there's something big. There's something, I talk to Amanda about this quite often. I just feel it. There's something beyond just what I'm doing right now that that awaits. And so, and part of that story is, I'm in Vancouver right now, but I would love to just kind of get a piece of land, somewhere in British Columbia and grow stuff, healthy stuff. And kind of share the food with people as well. Have a commune type of system where, we kind of get away from technology more often than we should be using it. And yeah, I love the outdoors, just like Chuck was talking about, and Ed as well. I love hiking. That's what brought me out here from Toronto. So there's all these things that are kind of converging right now. And I just feel like they're just like Chuck. I feel like there are opportunities to still run a business, and just having the right people in the right seats, and just having some type of cash flow, heading into the years where I'm not working as much.
Excellent. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you.
It's starting to feel like there's a bit of a theme here, so I'll speak for myself as well. So it's funny, Chuck, you and I kind of almost parallel each other in a lot of ways, because I'm older than you. And for myself, I'd score myself about the same. I'd score myself as a 7 out of 10. The reason is I have a plan in place, but to me, execution is always the key. There's the knowing doing gap, and so I still have to prove to myself I'm bridging that gap. For me, I've got more planned in the next 10 years than I've ever had. Like you, Chuck, Mexit is a new startup, just launched basically 2 years ago. It's already evolving and pivoting, and for Robert and I, it's really about making a difference, because if we can't help more people have successful exits from their business, there's going to be a lot of people who can't afford a not retirement. So it's a big driver in terms of I feel like we really have an opportunity to make a positive difference for other people, and that's really kind of like Joseph talks about. I have this servant mentality that I feel a lot more joy from helping other people succeed necessarily than just helping myself. So, there's so much more we want to do. We're going to, a couple of our kids are going to move out to the island. We're fervent sailors. I'm still a fervent cyclist. So it'll give us a chance to get a boat out in the coast again. I actually want to use the boat to teach youth leadership programming. And I've already talked with Royal Roads University out there, and also a friend of mine's out there teaching, and has asked me to come help with the entrepreneurship program there. I've got 2 other profs, and also my son's a prof, who are going to help me do a doctorate. So I have a goal of doing my doctorate. And I've already got my topic lined up. And And then I just want to get, like I said, actively involved in youth leadership, and I'd really like to do it with First Nations. And I'm starting to do some stuff. So, I look at it, and if anything, I've got more in my agenda for the next 10 years than I did for the last.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's, so much of that is the idea that we live life in crescendo, to quote Stephen Covey, and we have more experience, more knowledge, more bigger network and are wealthier than we ever have been. And so this is the time to do it. This is the time to do the best thing you've ever done. And that's what I'm hearing from you guys,
We just
I
had
got a
someone join us. Neil just joined us. So Neil, if your mic's on, the question is, how well prepared do you feel for not retiring, for life after what you're doing now, per se, and kind of what makes you feel that way?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was planning on joining earlier. I'm kind of in transit right now, and so I wasn't really. I was preparing to be able to sit down and take part, but it's not the case. So
We're
um,
dragging you into this. So just introduce
yeah,
yourself. Just tell us who you are and kind of quick thoughts on your not retirement plans.
yeah. So my name's Neil Soroka. I've been in the oil and gas industry in Alberta for 30 plus years. I just signed on with a new business, Sign World, out of the U.S. And I actually worked with Chuck, who's also on the call. Did some work through Chuck, and Chuck was a great resource. Anyways, so I'm down in Kelowna right now looking for lease space, and so my plan is for the next 10 year. I have a 10-year plan to build my business with my family. I have a young son who's going to be involved in the business with me, and so yeah, it's kind of a lifestyle change coming from Alberta, and at the same time do something that I've always wanted to do, which is start and run my own business, and hopefully be able to have a gradual exit strategy into retirement with my family taking over the business. That's the grand plan today.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else have anything they want to kind of add on before we kind of move on with Ed?
Yeah, I got a question here, Brad, and I guess it's to the group itself, not anybody specific. But I love what Joseph said about that servant mentality. And I guess my question is, from your guys' experience of helping business owners exit, is that a consistent trait that you see that, in my mind, it's, okay, let's say, use Neil's example. I've got a 10-year plan. I'm going to put my head down for the first 5, gonna, start building my team out, et cetera, get to a certain point, I can start pulling back and then start involving myself more in the community and get to that servant mentality. That's kind of what's in my brain, as an observation. I just wanted to bounce that idea off of everybody and see what their observations are.
Joseph, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I think over the years, just with the business that I've been running, I've come across a lot of people with that mentality. I think I don't know, I feel like every year, especially during the pandemic, I've been more awakened in terms of what I've been doing versus what I should be doing. And that's why I'm kind of, heading in this direction, as far as it's not about my business necessarily, it's about where my time is being spent and how impactful that'll have in my community or just society in general. And I'm kind of, I guess, in a bit of a vortex in terms of where that direction is going. I just feel that there's a calling for me. I just don't know what that is right now.
Yeah.
And I find that the people that I work with, and including myself, it's life and the legacy I leave to me is not in things. The legacy I leave is in how I've affected, hopefully positively, other people. And so, from my perspective, a lot of the people I find who I admire and who really thrive in their after retirement are people whose purpose is not about themselves, but whose purpose is about others. That other orientation, and giving back. We're purpose driven. Dan Pink does a whole bunch of work in this area, and fundamentally at our core, we're purpose maximizers. And golf is not a perfect purpose. Golf's something we do for ourselves. It's the things we do for others that keep us alive. You look at the memoirs of people who survived the Nazi camps and things like that, the gulags, and they talked about, they had a reason, that there was something outside themselves. They had a purpose that they had to survive for. And that's what really kind of kept them going. And so, I'm kind of a fervent believer in that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting comment, Brad, because my ex's father, who passed away in 2018, he was diagnosed with a form of stomach cancer, probably just when my daughter, before she was even born. And he survived with that purpose in his mind, is to survive as long as he can for his granddaughter. And so from the diagnosis to when he passed away was about 9 years. Which is just incredible. Like how he went, whatever he went through, he had that, like you talk about purpose. I just find that when you said that, those just kind of rang true to, yeah, like how the human mentality, when you kind of put your thought to something and you want to do it, it will happen. And he wanted to just survive, really, and he survived very healthily, very healthy until near the end. But yeah, it's amazing what the mind can do at whatever age.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
Ed, I'm going to hand it back to you.
sure. So this discussion is so typical, because what I do to research this more than anything else really is read biographies and autobiographies of people who have lived a not retirement. And what you say is so characteristic of them. They pass through the self-actualization phase, and then they're full on into transcendence, helping something bigger than themselves, because after you've become all that you can be, what's left? It's other people. And that's where you go. And it's so consistent in that. So some of these questions, these are coaching questions. Some of these questions might be useful to you, but this is a few of the questions that we use to help a person envision their not retirement. And the big $1 million question is the first one: what would your passion pursuit be? And that's what not retirement is all about. Often people find their passion from their childhood or their adolescence, something that has been with them for a very long time, and they haven't pursued yet. Very much like Diana Nyad, swimming from Cuba to Florida, from her young adulthood, resurfaced again when she was 50 years old. And I like to think I'm as fit as I've ever been, but I don't have the physical capacity that I did when I was really young. In spite of that, a person, and Diana Nyad proved this, can do more exceptional things than they were able to do with that young body. And so what lifelong dream, or what is it from your childhood that you still want to do? It's such a reoccurring theme in these stories. people go back to their childhood or adolescence, young adulthood. They pick something up from 30 or 40 years ago or even longer, and they said, now I'm going to do this, yeah. Okay, so those questions might be helpful to you. I'm just going to spend a minute on the next slide on the not retirement framework. And so this framework is something that I developed from all of these life stories that I read. You can put almost everything that people do for passion into these three areas, like adventure, and a couple of us have talked about how we love the mountains. That's adventure. And Brad talking about the sailing, those kind of things fall there. And then achievement, and Brad talked about doing his doctorate. That's an achievement example. And then contribution, all of us have talked about wanting to help others somehow and make the world a better place for other people. So that's where to look for your passion: adventure, achievement, and or contribution. And then in the blue row, we've got 4 profiles of people who enter or who seek for a not retirement. So the planner is the person who's not there yet, and there are some of us on this call, but are thinking about it, and they're formulating in their mind what their passion pursuit is going to be once they step away from the job. That's a planner. A seeker is a person who has pretty much just retired, and what now? What do I do now? An over-ready person, maybe they've been retired for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years, something like that, and they say, this is driving me crazy. I cannot keep playing golf, chess, and shuffleboard till I die. I cannot do this. That's an over-ready person. And then a cut-loose person, a lot of this happened over the pandemic. They lose their job sort of later in their midlife without expecting it. And they're in an unanticipated, what do I do now? Kind of space. So you find those 4 different profiles of people who are seeking for a not retirement. And then down the left column, these are ambitions that people have. And pretty much all the ambitions that you'll ever read about or hear about from other people fall into these 5 categories. An ambition around family or their community. A community is, your neighborhood sort of thing, people you run into on the street. A cause is something outside of that to help the, people in Ethiopia or something like that. And personal development, this is something that, maybe you got partway through a degree when you were a kid and weren't able to finish it. So now you want to finish that. And the last one here is income. You feel a need, or for some reason you want to make more money, and so you have an income ambition. And so there's an example here. The passion pursuit in the example is oil painting, and this person wants to do oils of the mountains, go out hiking in the mountains, do oils, maybe take their grandkids along, teach them how to do art when they are there in the mountains. So and maybe this person is been out of work for half a dozen years, so they're over ready. There's an adventure component to it, and they want to have that adventure with the family. So that's why the AD is in that particular cell. Maybe they want to display their artwork in the halls of the community, downtown City Hall. That's a contribution. And maybe they want to become a registered professional artist in Canada. That's an achievement. So this is how the framework works. And it just gives us a little bit of theory and structure, helps us to speak more deeply about this not retirement thing. So if you're going to do the best thing you've ever done, it's probably going to be very significant. You'll need some tools to actually pull this off. And one of the things that you notice when you're kind of getting to be our age is that you cannot be single-minded. You have responsibilities that can be fairly diverse. You have your own children, you have your grandchildren, you have your passion project, maybe you have responsibilities in the community, responsibilities sort of left over from the profession. You've got more than one thing going on, and don't have the luxury of just being single-minded toward a particular pursuit. So this tool called shifting focus is a method to do that. Now, I won't really go into it here because, you know, we're limited in time, but you have these multiple goals. And basically the way that this is that you do give one goal focus for a period of time based on a schedule that you have. You work through that focus, you take a break, and then you move on to goal number 2, give that focus, do the work that it requires, take a break, and so on. And so you work this cycle that allows you to give your all to particular areas. Maybe it's your grandkids, maybe it's your passion pursuit, and so on. And allows you to have the benefit of focus without doing just one thing for the rest of your life, you know. So there's more to it than that, but that's shifting focus. That's one of the tools. The next tool you might have heard before, or at least part of it, is you've heard of SMARTer goals, or SMART goals maybe, you know, the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goal. It's quite common. In not retirement, we have added a couple of letters so that this is done even better. The E is for energizing. So we need goals that inspire us, that are passion oriented, that we really want to do. That's where you find the energy to be excellent. And then responsible, this suggests that we have a transcendent quality to what we are pursuing, just like we've just finished discussing, right? We want to be responsible socially. We want to be responsible environmentally, and so on. It's not good enough simply to achieve your goal. It has to be good. And that's what the responsible piece is. And so smarter goals are just smarter than SMART goals. So that's another example. Group and individual coaching is a game changer. I have used it for years myself, personally, so that I can get done what I want to do, and it's another tool. There are so many tools in the Not Retirement program. So the Not Retirement program is actually has a very comprehensive online course component to it, where you can learn all of this stuff. And another tool, for example, is achievement strategy, that is actually 7 different tools put all into one. So it's not just a tool anymore, it's strategic. Imagination is really important. We find that imagination is the first, or lack of, is the first barrier to a person wanting a not retirement. I don't know what I want to do, you know, and so that's a big deal. And we have 11 different methods to magnify imagination, and just on and on it goes. Decision making, we have 6 different decision making tools in the Not Retirement program. So all of these tools in a comprehensive strategy enables a person to do better than they've ever done before and to live life in crescendo. Okay. Yeah, the best thing you've ever done, right? That's what we're after. And so it's engagement, not the idea of not retirement is engagement and purpose like you've never had it in your life before. You're able to do that, hopefully, because you have a little more freedom, time freedom and financial freedom. And so you can pursue your passion, what energizes you, and just, just blow out of the water anything that you've done before. The best thing you've ever done. That's the idea. So back over to you, Brad. Let's do this part of it.
Okay. So we're going to have another little group discussion. The question this time is, what are 3 not retirement passion goals for you? So, and again, intuitively off the top of your head is really all we're looking for. And then how would you prioritize them? So when you look at those 3 goals, and I'm going to give you a minute just to jot some things down. When you review them comparatively, how would you prioritize them? What are the factors that would make you choose one to be the first over the others? So Chuck, you scored yourself at a 7. So I'm going to start with you. So 3 retirement passion goals. How do you prioritize?
All right, a little more challenging question, but a fantastic one. So I've got 2 of 3 that, intuitively I can just kind of snap out. So travel being one of them. And part of the motivation there is my wife is 11 years older than me. So there's a finite amount of timeline before, health and mobility stuff will creep in. She's in incredible shape, still got lots of runway on that one, but that would be a priority for sure. And that falls into a little bit more, hey, let's take that moment and enjoy life and, stop and smell the roses. So that would be number 1. Number 2, and it kind of comes back to that whole servant mentality. In a way, I really enjoy helping entrepreneurs. And in my role as Neil and Joseph, past clients of mine, I just do that as this is what I do. Like, it's just normal for me, right? But as time goes on, what I really want to do is get some of the kids and specifically the grandkids involved in entrepreneurship and just be able to have a different path, or let's say have options of different paths to choose from, rather than having to be limited with those paths. So entrepreneurship being, of course, a big option compared to, let's say, going into a traditional corporate job. So that would be a big part for me, is just having that, the ability to share some of my own experiences with not just my clients or past clients, but be able to influence other people to just open their eyes to different options. So that would be number 2. And that's, of course, there's no real timeline to that. It's more of an evolution of a conversation with each and every person. So that'll be an interesting one. And then for a third one, I don't know, I gotta just keep coming back to my passion for the great outdoors. To me, that's where I ground myself. I do some of my best debriefing as well as some of my best thinking, because I'm away having a really good scotch, watching the sun go down, right? That's like, to me, that's, the creme de la creme, just being able to have that ability to do that. So there's my 3 right off the top of my head.
Awesome. Thank you. Neil, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, sorry guys, I'm a bit unprepared for all this. I haven't done a lot of real deep thinking around this stuff. But, I think just winging it. Kind of similar to Chuck's in a lot of ways. A big, a big passion of my wife and our and mine is travel, and getting to the point we are in our life. There's like we've created a bit of a, I guess, a bucket list on places that we want to see in the world before we hit the end of the runway. So travel is a big one for us. To me, it's not just it's we've all for the last 10 years travel's been a big part of our family life. We've seen a lot of places and so forth. So to me, it's as I live. I mean, I want to travel continually to as long as I can. The other one is I guess another priority for a passion for myself is just so part of the reason for me starting this business is actually for my family, my children, to be, I guess, be a coach, a mentor, to build something with my son and my wife, and hopefully someday possibly pull some of my other children into the business. And to me, just that building something that not only that they can take part in, from a financial standpoint, but also for a life, something they can build for their lives, and see the opportunities there, that something that you're building, from scratch. And to me, there's a whole bunch of things in there that just make that a good thing in my mind, where we're building it together as a family for something, first hopefully they can use in their lives going forward, and possibly my grandchildren as well. So that's a big thing. And then to me, it's just relationships. My family, the biggest passion I think in my life is just a relationship with my family and like kids. And I don't have grandchildren yet, but hopefully in the next few years I will. And to me, just enjoying my family, whether that's just taking part in just camping and fishing and family events just at the house, just to me, just enjoying each other, and just making those relationships matter.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Joseph.
Yeah, these are great questions. And it's great to hear some of the answers so far. I think with this business that I'm in right now, I guess the reason why I'm still doing it is because I remember when I first was doing my due diligence, I was asking people, who I was as a person, or who they thought they saw me as a person. And a lot of them said that I just like to help people. I really do. And, just kind of thinking, like, just even thinking back just to the things I've done, it has always related to my happiness is definitely around providing that support, I guess, or just leading by example on, how to not live life, I guess, but just getting people to think different, maybe. Like I know Ed brought up, like the whole, like the we're kind of indoctrinated with a lot of stuff out there, and how do we snap out of it? And I'm slowly kind of finding ways to accept life for the way I believe it to be, not just about earning money and all those things that that we're kind of told to do. But yeah, like in terms of my not retirement, I guess Chuck and Neil hit on one was traveling, and for me, I've done some quite a bit of traveling, but I think the traveling that I want to do next is definitely going to places where I guess I could kind of help people. Like during the off season that I'm not maybe in my primary residence. I think that's one where I feel as I'm even just saying, I just love to do. Amanda, my partner, she hasn't traveled as much as I have, and so I'd love to, yeah, just go down on this adventure with her. We're definitely on the same page as far as where we want to be, and that is to have an acreage where we can grow some stuff, and then have some type of commune system where we can kind of bring people that are like-minded, where they want to get off grid or things like that, would be very ideal for me, because it kind of incorporates both the outdoors and also kind of, just giving people a bit of a lifeline to get away from the craziness that is in our kind of urban environments right now. And yeah, and just grow healthy foods that I can kind of share and barter at the end of the day. And then just kind of demonstrate, I guess, for people that we need to kind of, life's too short type of mentality, and just do things that may invigorate people to also change the thought processes that they're currently on right now. So I'm
Excellent.
not sure I went 1, 2, 3, but it was just a
Yeah.
bit of it.
No, that's great. So for myself, Joseph, you and I need to talk, because I've been joking with my wife about this, but for me, I think as well, family, my wife is amazing. She's really my soulmate. So, having an even better after retirement life with her is probably my single biggest thing. And we have the same passion. So we love to sail together. We're avid cyclists. There's so many adventures we want to still have and do with each other. And our kids as well, because I think, like I said, at least 2 of our kids are going to be out on the island. And so we want to do something out there. But I want to build a house, and ideally I've got the same belief as you, Joseph. I've been thinking about building kind of a different type of retirement community, because there's a lot of us that have this similar like mind. Properties become prohibitively, ridiculously expensive, but we could set up some sort of a co-op type of space, because one of the things that I think kills people is loneliness and isolation as you age. And creating a community where we can be there for each other and nurture each other's after retirements, not retirements, I think would be a really awesome thing to be able to do.
That's a great thought. Oh, just gave me goosebumps.
So we got to talk, because that family thing, creating that community is probably number one. Making a difference for other entrepreneurs, whether it's to scale their businesses or to start businesses. And I love helping youth, because I found that the younger generations are so smart, so well educated, and the biggest thing they need is somebody outside themselves who believes in them, and can motivate them and help them believe in themselves to become the leaders that we need. To me, if we're going to save the world, my generation's not going to save the world. We made the mess we're in now. It's the young generations that are going to save it. And if I can get behind them as entrepreneurs and as leaders to help them take their role in creating a better world, then, that's the thing that really kind of jazzes me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's my own personal, Ed, I'm going to hand it back to you to kind of close us out and keep us,
Yeah.
take us to the end.
Well, so much of this really resonates with me. I would say my big not retirement ambition is so much like Chuck's. I would love to see my grandkids able to put together their own independent means of generating income. That's what I'd love to see. So I think that's what Chuck said, actually. So yeah, so some just going forward, a few things that that you might say is the next step. We're on this journey together with other people, and we need to have that discussion with them as well. And we have you need an inspiring vision of where you want to go, a plan to get there, and then, as Brad says, you need to do it. So all of this stuff, right? And yeah, so it's kind of the question, where do you go from here? And often a question that I'll ask my coaches is, what's the next step? Just take the next one step. and then the one after that. It's kind of like climbing a mountain, you know, and you'll get there. You'll get to the top. Yeah. So just a little bit, not too much, but a little bit about Not Retirement and how it works. So Not Retirement, which is my business, is affiliated with a group of executive coaches. We have 25 plus coaches in our affiliation together. They're senior coaches, so they're people who are very well established. That's what we ask for in this group. I've already talked about the online resources. The way our affiliation, which is called Ubiquity Coaches, works is that a person in Not Retirement gets a dedicated coach, and then we will bring in specialist coaches for the particular thing that they want to do. So say they're building a business, and so we have a couple of specialists in the Ubiquity group who can help them to do that. Entrepreneurial backgrounds, or there might be someone that needs better wellness and fitness in order to achieve what they want to. So we have a couple of wellness coaches, and so we bring these specialists in to work on particular aspects of their passion pursuit, so that they can see it through. And so, yeah, if, you know, for example, if we had somebody that had a business, needs to step away from it, then the work that Brad does with Mexit would be ideal as a specialist to draw on for that particular purpose. So love to stay in touch with people. There's so much common thinking going in here. I'm just thinking, wow, it'd be so good to put our heads together. And so my email, LinkedIn, and my website, notretirement.ca. Would love to hear from others. Yeah.
So everyone, please feel free to put your contact information in the chat for the rest of us. Ed, thank you very much. I actually really enjoyed this, and we're going to put it up on YouTube and through our sites as resources. So if you know of any other people who didn't have a chance to join us, we'll have it available, because I really found what you had to share valuable for me personally. So thank you, Ed. I'll just finish off. From our perspective, a great exit needs a team. So to me, Ed is a part of a team that any business owner really needs to capitalize on. Every expert that you can bring in who can help guide you in the areas that are going to be critical for your long-term success, they're worth the investment. And so we're just one of those Mexit, but you know, if you're exiting accountants, lawyers, financial planners, tax specialists, other specialists, other entrepreneurs, other business owners are probably where I've gotten most valuable insights I've had was other people who've walked a mile in our shoes and can share their lessons learned. So don't feel like you're stuck alone. There's help you can get all over the place. And just finishing off for us, Mexit, we're really a program for small, medium business owners, providing people, tools, processes to help them sell their businesses for more. And ultimately, what our goal is to help them have the personal financial legacy they really want from their business. So that's us. That's our contact information, and we're building out a network of associates as well on the Mexit side. So that's kind of a wrap for today. So I wanted to thank everyone for joining us. If you have anything, I'll give everyone a chance to just any last words from anyone.
I would say thanks again, Brad, Ed. That was some great information there. Relevant for my current thoughts, future thoughts. So very insightful. And it's just I think my biggest takeaway from today's discussion is just different ages are thinking a little differently, and I love hearing all of the different levels where people are at, and that just gives me a little bit of pause to think things through just a little bit more, because I always think, maybe I'm missing something. But so that's what my big takeaway was today. Great conversation and different perspectives.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks. Just echo what Chuck was saying. Just it's always invigorating to get outside of what you do on the daily basis, and when you have conversations like these, it's always great to get either a fresh perspective or again a more of an awakening as far as where you are and what time you have left, so to speak. And I certainly will definitely touch base and have a chat with you guys again, and love to see what you guys have down the road. But definitely we'll be talking to my partner Amanda about this conversation and see where it goes from there.
Super. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for the open share and the open participation. I find we all learn from each other, and that's the most valuable gift. So thank you all. I'm going to stop the share, and we are good. Have a fantastic day.